You've got ideas, you've got ambition, you've got no time, or so you think. I'm Marissa Lonick, and I help busy moms with big dreams and no time. Join me each week as I dive into time management strategies, goal setting and achieving framework, and inspiring guests who are juggling mom life, work life, fill in the blank life. Dreams don't work unless you do, and just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't still make it happen, whatever it means to you. Welcome to the Mama Work It podcast. Hello, mamas, and welcome back to another amazing episode of the Mama Work It podcast. If you're new around here, I'm Marissa Lonick, your host, your time management and productivity resource, your hopefully mom bestie, and I am so excited to welcome our guest today, Dina Ramaha. Dina is an LCSW behavioral health specialist and psychotherapist. She's the founder of Conscious Mind Therapy Institute in Walnut Creek, California, which currently has 15 incredible clinicians. With over 20 years of experience in mental health in a wide variety of settings, including hospital, psychiatric, emergency for suicidal adults, teens, and children, a crisis counselor for in-home interventions with families with children in crisis, and drug and alcohol recovery for adults. Dina has now been in private practice for 9 years, and some of her most favorite work has been with moms who have children of all ages, from newborns to adult children. Dina also hosts a women's group and women's workshops several times a year. I have personally been to one of these. They are phenomenal. And on top of all this, Dina is a certified advanced yoga and meditation teacher and runs an anxiety relief group twice a month at her center. Let's not forget, Dina is also a mom and a wife, and for fun, she and her hubs are currently in the process of opening a coffee company in South Lake Tahoe, which is probably one of the most gorgeous and scenic places in the U.S., if I do say so myself. So, Dina, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, I have been looking forward to this for a while and excited to have a conversation with you about moms and mom life. I've been obsessively, I said I was stalking you, listening to your podcast and looking at all your things on Instagram, and so inspiring. The group of women that you've brought together. I think what you're doing and these women coming together is going to change the way motherhood is shaped, for not only for ourselves but also for the generations before us. So thank you. I love the intro. It's nice to hear, and I'm like taking in all the compliments, but I also am honored to be part of this with you. So thank you.
Thank you. And right back at you, Dina. You are, like I said, #goals. So tell us more about, your own mental health journey, how it led you to support clients in this space as a behavioral health specialist, a psychotherapist, now in private practice. I'd love to hear more.
Yeah. So there's this really funny book called I Was a Really Good Mom Before I Had Kids. And that kind of sums up my intro to motherhood. And I was 39. I already had a degree. I've had a good job, a great relationship. And we decided, okay, this is the next step to our journey in our life. And so we decided to have a child. And oh man, I was from the outside on paper, I looked so great. And, life had been so easy for me at that point, and doing a lot of personal work and development on myself. And after I had my daughter, it was like I had to learn to walk again. I had to start all over from scratch. Everything that I thought that I knew about myself, I had to start all over. And not that it had completely gone out the window, I still had a bit of a foundation from the things that I had, but it didn't really apply now that I was a mom. So my way of trying to cope with everything that was happening was to put everybody first. And, I had that attitude of, I got this, I can do this, you do you, I got this. And next thing I know, I cannot recognize myself or my life or who I am at this point. And I realized I was at the bottom of the totem pole, and I was resentful, I was exhausted. And I knew this wasn't sustainable. Something had to change. And coming to realize in my own work through this and going to different workshops and reading and like really doing a lot of self study is that I put myself in that position. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a victim of anything. I systematically, with my eyes wide open, put these bars up one by one on this cage that I had created for myself. And I felt a little bit stuck at first, and then realizing, well, wait a minute, I put myself in this position, I can get myself out of it. And I think a big part for me was I'm a very acts of service person, and putting myself first was uncomfortable. And I struggled with that, especially being a mom. So once I started learning to do that, it took a long time, right? It wasn't an overnight fix. I would say it took me a good year to get past things like shame and guilt and fear, and allowing myself the space to put myself as a top priority once in a while. uh, then things really started to shift. My life really started to have abundance and clarity. And I'm at a point now where I share that with other moms. And that's, when we learn and become leaders in our own life, the true leadership then becomes sharing it with other people. And so that's something that's really important to me in doing that now. And one of the reasons why I wanted to come and talk with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I feel like that is so relatable for so many moms listening, myself included. I mean, I had that period of time myself where I was completely selfless when I entered motherhood. And, you quickly get into this cycle where you do start to feel resentful and angry and bitter and frustrated and all these things. And you just end up showing up as such a poor quality version of you. Like, even
Hmm.
though you want to be the best mom, the best spouse, the best employee or entrepreneur, the best fill in the blank, you can't. You can't even show up even like half the level where you want to be because of those things. And
Hmm.
I so appreciate too that visual of like putting those bars up yourself, because I think it's so easy to blame other things. It's so easy out there to be like, well, this is just how it is, or this is just, like what people say, or this is how my mom did it, or fill in the blank, and just kind of play the blame game and live in that. And honestly, as daunting as that sounds, that you did it to yourself, that we do it to ourselves, it is also very empowering, as you said, because just like we do it, we can undo it. So thank you
Yes.
for bringing that to light.
Yes. And when I work with moms now, or women who of all ages, and they come in and they tell me their story, and and it's sad. It is. And it's very I have a lot of compassion and understanding, and I always end with, and how do you think you got here? And I
Mhm.
take a seat back and I'm wait, like, please say it. Please say it. I did this to myself. Because then that's when the change can really happen. When we sit back and we take this victim role, I think that's where you said the word resentment. Brene Brown, I love her. I'm sure you've heard of
Mhm.
Brene Brown.
Yes, me
She,
too.
in her book, Atlas of the Heart, such a beautiful book, she says resentment is in the envy family. And that was a huge aha moment for me, not just in my own life, but also in working with women, is, when your husband's like, hey, I'm going bike riding for 4 hours. Oh, hey, I'm staying late from work today. And we just kind of stuff it down and say nothing. And we're stewing over like, oh, you have all this time to ride your bike and you can to do all these things. And here I am stuck. It's envy. Men are really good about putting shame and guilt to the side and putting themselves first and their health, as they should, but also as we should, right? Oh, that's great. You're going for 4 hours and you're doing all these things for yourself. I love that. Good for you. I'm so proud of you. Tomorrow, I'm going to take half the day and do XYZ for myself. You got this. I'll see you later. So turning that envy into and resentment into being a part of our lives, and then that's when, and we're going to talk about that later, when the healthy habits and connection happen with our spouses as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. I want to ask you this question. It's a 4-letter word. It starts with F. It's not a curse word, but it comes up a lot in our lives. And I know you have a
Okay, it's
lot
not
to
that
say
kind of
about
show.
this. It can be that kind of show sometimes, but not today. So it's the word fear.
Okay.
Fear plays such a big role in our ability to move forward when it comes to
Yes.
goals, when it comes to even stepping into that taking care of ourselves in that way, taking that 4-hour
Mhm.
bike ride or hike or whatever we want to fill it in with, right?
Mhm.
How can you let go of the fear in order to really step in and live your best life?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a beautiful question. And I would say 95% of the women that I work with, the fear translates into anxiety, right? And they're anxious and they're worrisome and they can't sleep and they're exhausted all the time. And when I break it down, all of it comes down to being afraid of letting go of control because something bad might happen, being afraid of letting go of control because it won't get done the way they want it to be done, and fear that something bad is going to happen if they're not in control. And so we need a healthy dose of fear, right? Because otherwise
Mm-hmm.
crazy things happen, right? We see our children doing something that's dangerous and we go over and we stop them. We make the call about safety. That's our job as moms. 100%, right? Dad's our adventure, and not to say that those roles can't cross over, but those are usually our lanes. What happens though is when fear becomes so prevalent in our life that it starts to steal our joy. We're
Mm.
so worried about controlling everything. Well, one, most likely, and I know you moms know who I'm talking about, you're driving everyone around you crazy, right? Oh, you're so controlling, you're so bad. And the
Never,
I
Dina, never.
mm,
Just
come on.
kidding.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. I've been there, right? Where it's like, really? Is that where your mind is going? It takes away our ability to enjoy everyday life. So a healthy dose of fear is good because that's our role, that's our jobs, part of our jobs as moms, but too much of it keeps us from being in the moment with our families, really focusing on the relationship we have with them instead of just our responsibility as moms. There's a huge difference between our responsibility as a mom and our relationship with the people in our lives, whether it be friends, our spouse, our family, our children. And so if it's all fear-based, we have a hard time focusing on the other parts. And it leaves very little room. Like if my space is totally filled with all the things that could go wrong and how I can control everything and make everything just right, there's no room for anything good to come in. There's no room for creative energy. There's no space for laughter and joy. And that's the advice I think I would give people. So if we're afraid of being in control and afraid of something bad happening, something that so here's a lot. I wanted to give everybody logical steps of things they could do, right? Because I could sit here and
Yes.
talk about these things, but if I don't give your listeners some nuggets to hold on to, which is my intention, then what's the point of, me being here? So what I do with people who come in who come from fear is I tell the opposite of fear is empowerment. If I'm afraid to drive, I'm going to be the best driver. I'm going to put my phone in the trunk so I'm not distracted. I'm going to keep my eye on the road. I'm going to follow the law. I'm not going to speed. And then I say to me, I'm a really good driver. And as that empowerment happens, the fear starts to lose its power, right? If I'm afraid something is going to happen, I teach myself how to learn as much as I can about that thing. And then the fear loses its power. So that's one, empowerment. The second one is gratitude. Gratitude, coming from a place of gratitude, fear loses its power as well. If I start the day with all the things that could go wrong and the things I'm worried about, yeah, that's going to set the tone for the day. But if I wake up thinking, man, I'm so grateful for these three things, right? I ask people to do the three threes. Three things you're grateful for, three things you're looking forward to, and three deep breaths. If I start my day that way, if I do it in the middle of the day and I do it at the end of the day, what happens is my mind starts to let go of the parts of me that are afraid and fearful and starts to focus more on the things I'm grateful for. So those are definitely techniques I use with people that hands down work every time.
I love those actionable steps. So
And with
good.
myself. Yes, and with myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I want to go back to something you said that like really blew my mind, okay?
Hmm.
You
Okay.
said it's either you're focused on the responsibility or the relationship. Oof, this is so good, Dina. This is so, so good. Like, I want to dive into this deeper because
Okay.
it's hard. It's hard as a
Hmm.
parent, as a mom to kind of turn off the responsibility sometimes and
Hmm.
just focus on the relationship. Like, trust me, I want to be a fun mom. I want to be that fun mom. And it is so hard for me because I got so much to manage. I got so
Hmm.
many moving parts, right?
Yeah.
And I am fearful. I am worried about the safety and the this and the that, right? That creeps in.
Hmm.
Do you have any thoughts or tips there, to help us get a better sort of quote unquote work life balance when it comes to
Yeah.
that?
I love that. So I ask people, if you had a friend and every time you saw that friend, she only asked you about your to-do list. Well, did you do this? Have you been doing that? Well, what about that? Well, you said you were going to do this and you didn't follow through. Um, you
We
said
would not be friends.
you would not want to hang out with her. You right? She would message you and say, "Hey, you want to have tea?" Like, "No, I'm sorry, busy." You would avoid that person, right? So imagine that translates into your relationship with your kids or your spouse or your partner, right?
Mm,
If your partner walks to the door and you go down the to-do list and all the things that you need to do or haven't done and the fails and the yeah, that's going to be tension and avoidance. And same with your children, right? I love working with families as well, and I have people of all ages, and teens are probably one of my favorite in doing work with parents. And well, my kid sits in the car and all they do is put on their headphones and they ignore me. And the kid's like, yeah, because all you want to do is talk about all the things I haven't done yet, or my chores, or my so I think what we have to do is put the business side of being a parent to the side and
mhm.
focus on the relationship. I did this talk with like 110 moms of teenagers, and I was like, how many of you are actually having fun? And one woman raised her hand. One woman raised
Mm,
her hand in a hundred and room of 110. I don't think any of us became moms because we're like, I can't wait to be organized and schedule my family. And right, it was the hugs and the playfulness, and we dreamt about the joys and the love. As life gets busy, we get on this Ferris wheel and it's spinning so fast, we can't get off of it, right? So meditation is not an option for everybody. Meditation actually for some people can be agitating. Finding time to do self-care and do things like that can work for people, but definitely slowing down and letting go of fear, letting go of shame and guilt, and putting the to-do list to the side and really focusing on your relationship. One of the people asked me, how do you do so many things? It's because I keep everything categorized in its own compartment. When I'm at the center and I'm with my team, I'm with my team. When I'm with one of my people, one of my patients, I am totally, fully 100% with him. When I am with my daughter, I am 100% with her. When I am with my husband, I am 100% with him. I don't let things bleed and flow over each other. It creates chaos, and that's when we get on that Ferris wheel.
mhm.
So I would say that, right? Keep the joy and the parts of our relationship in order by really focusing 100%. And that's mindfulness. And I actually listened to one of your shows on that from someone. And 100%, if we can train our minds not to, wander off and go in different directions and we can be in the moment, that will help us to focus on the relationships. 100%. The healthiest the healthiest teens and family relationships I've met with parents, we have our kids when they're little, but remember these people are going to grow up and be teenagers. They're going to be young
Mhm.
adults. And we can't play that role of manager their whole life. There comes a time where you have to shift and becoming a consultant, right? Becoming a,
Mhm.
a comrade. And when I meet families like that, 100% they have the healthiest relationships, the healthiest relationships. And
Yeah.
that's what
I
we all
love
want.
I love that you said that. I was just recording an episode actually recently. My oldest kids are turning 10
Mm,
and I'm stepping into tween motherhood. Okay. I'm new
here it
territory,
comes.
new
Here it
territory.
comes.
Yeah, and I was reflecting on this episode, and trust me, I'm no parenting expert. I'm not a parenting coach. Like, this is not my zone of genius, but I'm a
Mm-hmm.
parent. So I got to figure it out, and I want to be the best parent I can be, as any parent out there, I imagine, also does.
Mm,
And I was thinking about it, and you're right. Like, it's a seasonal shift, right? You are a different mom with a baby than you are with a toddler, than you are with a school-aged kid, now that you are with potentially tweens, teens, adults. And if you want that relationship, as you're saying, which I so desperately like, I want to be that mom when my kids are grown that
mm-hmm.
they come to, because I'm an objective, wise mentor. I'm a mom too, but I'm not like that annoying mom I have to call. Like, I'm the mom they actually want to talk to, right?
Yeah.
So I have to shift my parenting. I have to shift into that space. So it's very reassuring to hear you say that. And I love the tips that you
Oh,
give. Thank you.
yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. You're absolutely right. I love when you said stages, and there are stages in
Mhm.
different seasons that we do have relationships with our kids. Beautifully said.
Yeah. Manager to consultant. So good. So good.
Yes, and it works. It really does make such a huge shift. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dina, a lot of our listeners are in partnerships, right? And there can be
Mm-hmm.
some rocky seasons when you're in the thick of it raising kids. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious, how can moms increase connection, reduce conflict with their spouse, with their partner, while raising a family together and also trying to manage things like their own work, their own individual schedule, their own self care, all of those things? How do you make it work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love work with couples and helping them to connect. And I oftentimes get, the moms will come in first and they're like, my husband won't come and he thinks this is ridiculous and a waste of time. And then finally, for some reason, the spouse will change their mind and come in and be like, this wasn't so bad. This was actually kind of fun. Um, so working with couples and helping them to connect with each other is one of my favorite things to do. Now, the other things we talked about, right? Relationship versus responsibility, letting go of fear and letting joy come in. You will already start to see, I have as well, your relationships shift and your partner connection start to shift. Your energy starts to shift. And that creates a space for more wanting to spend time with you, okay? In and of itself. I want to move away from this date night thing. Every time I hear the word date night, I just like cringe inside because I mean, if I was dating this guy, right, and he went out with me once a week for a couple of hours, and you know that was it, and I was supposed to be my best self, and he was supposed to be his best self. I don't think I want to date that person, let alone feel connected or intimate with them. It's the day to day things that we're missing out on. I if I told you how many couples were, I'm like, do you greet each other when you come home? No. Okay. Do you walk your person to the door and say goodbye? No. Do you connect, send a message or flirt throughout the day? No. No, 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 across the board. We're missing these opportunities to connect to our partner and find moments where we stop and give each other a hug, or when we talk to each other, we pause and look one another in the eye rather than from across the room or as we're doing things. Um, when we're disconnected like that and not feeling intimate, intimate is not about sex. Sex and intimacy are very different. And a lot of women will say, well, I avoid intimacy because then it leads to things that I don't have time for and I'm not in the mood for. And so that's a conversation for couples to have. But having intimacy where you take these moments to pause and really connect with each other, what happens is it's really hard for me to be mean to you or annoyed or have a tone. It That intimacy happens in the little opportunities throughout the day to connect, not these big grand gestures of date nights or special gifts or and so I think that's when I help couples to do that. And in my own relationship, when I do that, my husband is one of my best friends. And it's because we treat each other as kindly as we would a friend. and a colleague or someone that we meet, right? Oftentimes we treat people who are strangers better than we treat our partners. So taking the time to pause and do those things, and I promise you, if you do these things, your partner and you will have such much more gentleness with one another. There's a thing, the John Gottman, the Four Horsemen, and it's a type of communication skill that they teach through the Gottman Institute, and I use it all the time. And uh, one of them that's really hard to change is contempt, which is tone. So our tone with one another, the way we say things, uh, also plays a huge part in our intimacy and our connections with our partner. So let me break it down because I kind of went all over the place. So tone, taking moments throughout the day to connect to one another, pausing to connect to one another, those create intimacy, and intimacy creates connection. And then you actually want to spend time together. You enjoy one another's company. Those combined with some of the other things we talked about are life changing for couples for sure.
Amazing. And so, I mean, I don't want to say easy to implement because it may be hard if you're especially struggling in a season right now where it's feeling very unnatural to greet your partner at the door or something like that. But very simple tips. Like, even if you did one of these things and started it and made it a habit, 21 days, made it a habit, you could really layer on top of that and see massive results in your relationship.
hmm And being playful, right? Being playful with one another. I think so. I tell couples all the time, and I'll sit back and kind of listen to them go back and forth, and I'm like, you guys are taking this way too seriously. You're supposed to be having fun. Do you remember that?
Mhm.
Do you remember when you were fun with one another and they're like, "Oh yeah, I was fun. We used to have fun. What happened? We're not having fun and being playful and making jokes." And that really lightens up the energy between people. My husband and I use humor a lot to lighten the mood. So tip very logical tips and, pausing to look at one another, being playful, being lighthearted, communicating with each other in a way where you're really trying to hear and understand, not trying to be right. If
Mm.
I if I'm listening to my person and I'm trying so hard to understand them, because being loved is nice. Being loved is great, right? It's nice. But being understood is profound. That's where the connection comes from. Okay, I love you. I love you too. Okay, bye. But being understood, that's what creates long-term connection. So if I really try to understand you rather than tell you why I think I'm right, I'll often take responsibility, and that's the other part of it for sure. Take responsibility for your part. Even if you think you're right and your person totally effed up and messed up and you're so mad, take a moment to pause and be like, I could have said this different or I could have done this different. And then your person does that and you really understand each other, wow, then healing really starts. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. So many good tips in thriving in motherhood on today's episode. Dina, before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you like our lightning round, random
Okay.
questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
What's your guilty pleasure TV show?
Oh, hands down, Master Chef.
Ooh,
Uh,
okay.
I know I'm a little obsessed, and there's so many seasons, and I put it on while I'm cooking, my own. Yeah, love it. I get
Are
into the
you
drama of
also
it.
a great cook on top of all your other amazing attributes?
So my therapy is making pasta noodles from scratch.
Wow.
Yes, I don't want anyone in the kitchen with me. I don't need music on. Just making it's such a simple because when we have something that's a start to finish and we have like a complete product, I think that's why a lot of us
Mhm.
like to clean and do that. It's so satisfying. I love it. And then
Yeah.
everyone loves fresh noodles. So yes, I do
Yeah.
love to cook quite a
That's awesome. All
bit.
right. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
If I could have any superpower, um, I think that I would if I had a magic wand to like lighten people's hearts, I that would be my superpower, right? There's you just see we're in a different generation. I think people are more enlightened and more aware than ever before. And then you meet those souls who are just like so stuck. That would be my superpower. Just have like a little pixie dust or wand that I help the people to just like lighten their hearts a bit. That would be
Well, that is like the sweetest answer ever. And you are just, it's so apparent you're doing your life's work.
it. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay, this is a good one.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to switch gears. If they made a
Okay.
movie about your life, who would you want to play you?
Oh, Julia Roberts, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, I could see that.
Julia Roberts. Yeah. Yeah, she's fabulous. She plays so many different roles. I would definitely want her to play me.
What's something most people don't know about you?
That I homeschool my daughter.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
did not
It's
know
just a
that.
value that was important to me, and
Hmm.
um, I love I love teaching. I think that's why I love my job. I would do it for free, and so being able to teach her and help shape her mind, and also give her lots of adventures and not be tied. It's different for everyone, but
Hmm.
not be tied to this like classroom Monday through Friday, 8 to whatever 3, and giving her a little bit more freedom to choose her own curriculum. So yeah, a lot of people don't know that. So amongst
Yeah,
everything else, yeah.
beautiful. All right. Finally, what is like your go-to get it done song that really pumps you up?
Without a doubt, Footloose,
Mm,
right? An oldie but goodie.
oldie but goodie.
Always.
Absolutely.
Yeah, always get play that song no matter what is happening. It's like a little bit of a cup of a coffee. Get up and start moving
That's
and
it.
dancing to it. Yeah, gets me going every time.
It's like a Broadway show.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, good. Dina, let our listeners know where they can find you, where they can hear more of your expertise, your wisdom. Let us know.
Yeah, thank you. So Conscious Mind Therapy Institute is in Walnut Creek, and I have a women's group, and I have a group that I do for, I call it stress relief, anxiety relief, and I do that a couple times a week. So my schedule is full as far as I wish I could actually, I've duplicated myself through my team, but there's only a limited time that I can see people one-on-one, which is why I had the groups. And then I started an Instagram page for fun about it's called Conscious Mind Remedies. And it's just for fun things I post about different topics and kind of gets people going and having a conversation. So you can find me on there. And I love coming and speaking at anybody's school or club or program and talking about these things. I could do it all day. So yeah, that's definitely my place that people can look for me if they'd like to connect.
Awesome. Well, we will have all those links in today's show notes. So, Dina, once again, thank you so much for being here. Such a amazing episode. So many great tips, actionable steps, and just thank you for sharing your wisdom and your time.
Yeah, and thank you for doing this. I was saying to you, I think what you're doing is changing the generation that we have as moms and also the generation before us of connecting women together. And the work you're doing, I think you're going to see that it resonates for years and years. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Dina.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and would love if you could take a quick minute to leave me a review on whichever platform you're listening from, and maybe even send a note to a fellow mama friend recommending it. Reviews and recs help this podcast grow and reach more like-minded, awesome moms. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that button so we can stay in touch, girl. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Mama Work It website, please do. There are lots of free resources and great articles there that can help you with the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So head on over. Thanks again for being part of the tribe. I'll see you soon, but in the meantime, keep on working it, mama.